Win Monday Nation. Welcome to the latest episode of Paul's Take inside of the Win Monday podcast. And we are coming off a special conversation with my main man, Jason O. Harris, Air Force officer, combat veteran, today best-selling author, keynote speaker, blazing trails throughout the world. If you have not heard the conversation between me and Jason, please go back and get a masterclass on how to make no-fail trust your competitive advantage. Today's take that Jason inspired. So he literally has a story, and it's even on his website. If you're curious, go over to Jason O. Harris's website, how a horse saved his life. The horse's name was Bubba. As much as I'd love to riff on Bubba for 5 to 10 minutes, I feel like that is Jason's story to tell. But when a horse saves your life, of course, I double click on that. And he talked about what horses do to stay in their lane, to stay focused, to be intentional. Literally, they have blinders on. They cannot look to their left or right. And he talked about how applying that insight to his own life. You've always heard this saying, comparison is the thief of joy. I'll repeat that. Comparison is the thief of joy. And I fundamentally believe that to be true, because if it can work for a horse, it can work for us to put our blinders on, to have that level of focus and intentionality and not look to your left and right. Something that I always share from the stage is that true bliss is when you stop looking to your left and right. True bliss is when you stop looking to your left and right. We all want happiness. We all want fulfillment. We all want more peace, more bliss. We all want to be where our feet are, but we get caught in the game of life. We get caught in the game of social media. We compare ourselves to other people and the top 1% of their life. And that comparison can be the thief of joy. And as I'm recording this take, I am about a handful of days removed from one of the most special experiences of my life where this lesson was personally applied. And it was the hardest physical challenge I'd ever been through. Maybe you've heard of 29029. It stands for 29,029 feet, which, by the way, is the equivalent of Mount Everest. So Jesse Itzler and others put on this phenomenal event. They cruise around North America, about 5 or so locations a year. I happen to be in Mont-Tremblant, right outside of Montreal, and it was 36-hour time frame, an endurance piece where you're not necessarily competing against other people, but you are competing with yourself. And I found myself for those 36 hours staring down at the ground, down at the gravel. People are around me. There is noise. There is distraction. Your body is sending signals that you want to quit. You physically can't go anymore. But of course, that's where the mission comes in. Of course, that's where the purpose comes in. But here's where I want to talk about comparison being the thief of joy, because trust me, I was undertrained, I would say undertrained, undercoached, underready. I was not ready for this experience. Other folks had shown up after 6 or 9 months of training, not me. And I say this from a very humble place to say that maybe I was underskilled, maybe I was under-resourced, maybe I was underprepared. Ever a moment where I wasn't going to hit that finish line because I was on a mission. And if I had caught myself in this comparison game, as I'm around a lot of high performers that have been training and training and training, and it's not just their physical self, but they've been training their mind, they've been training all elements of their emotional management. Like, it was a total boot camp type experience. And I was, in some ways, I guess you could say, competing with them. And if I was truly competing with them, and if I had this failure of losing or this deeper burn to win against another person, then I would have lost. I would have lost, because this was never about a race. This was about me proving to myself that I could hit a finish line for a bigger purpose, for a bigger meaning. And that's today's take. What is your deeper burn? What is your deeper mission? What is the deeper reason that you want to do something? For me, whether it's family, whether it's keeping the promises that I make to myself, I always say that confidence comes from those that consistently keep the promises that they make to themselves. Here's a phenomenal thing that I heard in the pregame speech of 29029. One of the coaches that was talking to us from stage, he said, commitment begins when motivation ends. I'll repeat that. Commitment begins when motivation ends. So for you, what are you motivated by? And that's going to get you through some short-term sprints. It's just like hitting a goal. It's a sprint, but it's short game. Long game are your standards. Who are you? What do you stand for? Those elements of character are your standards, and those standards dictate what your commitments are. So to get up 29,029 feet in 36 hours, to climb the equivalent of Mount Everest, comparison would have been the thief of my joy. Instead, it was an inward look at myself. Who am I? What do I stand for? Why am I doing this? And that focus and that solitude and the bliss that I found by not looking to my left and right, that's why we climbed the mountain. That's why we got to the finish line. And that is why it is an experience I will never, ever forget. More to come on 29029. I feel like I'll be talking about this a lot, but thanks to Jason O'Harris that first of all, a horse saved his life, or he's never living the life that he has, and he's on the podcast. But then we're talking about horses, and he says blinders. And why do you think horses are so effective in races? Because they can only look forward. Well, nobody is going to put the blinders on to your left and right. You have to put your own blinders on. You have to stay focused on what's in front of you, just like I did, staring at that gravel, going up Mont Tremblant for 36 hours to climb 29,029 feet. Do not allow comparison to be the thief of joy. And that, my friends, is today's take, Paul's take inside of the Win Monday podcast. I'll see you next week.